All right, today's conversation is a little bit different because my guest is not a realtor. He's not a broker. He's not a real estate coach. He's not here to talk about open houses, social media, listing presentations, market stats, thankfully. But in many ways, he has built the exact kind of business that many realtors say that they want. A business that is built on trust, relationships, long-term value, business where clients, they don't just show up once, they and just transact and then disappear. They'll stay, they'll grow, they'll refer, they'll send more complexity your way, right? They'll bring opportunity. So my guest today is Chad Larson. Chad is actually my personal wealth advisor, whether you'd like to admit it or not. But more than that, he is someone I have watched for nearly 20 years. I have watched him grow from a young advisor, building his name in the industry, but now he's one of the top in his field, just period. So Chad is a partner and a senior portfolio manager with MLD Wealth, which is a private wealth management firm inside the Canaccord Wealth Management Group. So he founded that, serves as the portfolio manager of the firm, where he leads like the asset allocation, individual security selections, deal origination, the big stuff, right? Going way back, Chad, he holds a Bachelor of Arts in Economics, U of C, which is in Calgary here. I think he probably has more accolades that I'm not sure about. Um, he has been recognized as by wealth professionals, one of the top 50 advisors in Canada, named Advisor of the Year for alternative investments, a lot of major things. And he wrote a book. It's this beautiful little book, right? Beyond Traditional, Unlocking the Potential, what does it say? Of alternative assets. So it's a book focused on helping investors better understand the role of alternative investments. So Chad, beyond all that, you are one of the most interesting people that I know. You've put yourself in really cool scenarios. Every time I get a chance to talk to you, there's these new stories, and you've got this candor and this just like human component above you that like you can see why people gravitate to you and your world. So, what else did I miss? And welcome
Oh,
to the Rome podcast.
well, thanks for having me, Darren. That was a mouthful, so I'm a little bit clammy and blushing a little bit. Yeah, I was in Vancouver yesterday speaking at a conference and had this kind of mic drop moment, and this older gentleman, but like a complete legend in the business, kind of came shuffling over after my speech, and he just said, "Oh my God, you're the Johnny Carson." He's like, "You were the Johnny Carson of investments." He's like, "You got the room right," and I was like, "Ah." So listen, I'm quick on my feet, and I have a lot of stories. I don't know how much more pandering to my ego, one can take. But no, I've been super blessed. It's that iceberg of success, that so many of us, look at all the time of like, wow, like, what is Chad Larson? And I'm 45. Yeah, I'm 45 years old now. I still feel young. Like I still feel like I'm just getting going. And for sure, I've just hit that mid-career stride. But I was super success. I think one of the keys to one of the things more than anything is it's been the consistency and the discipline. I'm 45, but I have 23 years of experience.
Mhm.
I got very lucky, and it's not lost on me. A lot of people, young people in their careers, they go through many other iterations before they really find their calling or what they're good at. And so I remember, this was 15 plus years ago. I already had 10 years of experience. I was like, wow. So definitely a head start by just being lucky enough to find mentorship and partnership early. But no, I don't think there's not a lot more. I think the only thing you missed is, aside from the alternatives, I do also know how to cook a few omelets. I also manage a prospectus cleared mutual fund here in Canada, which is, rare would be an understatement. I think I am one of the only advisors in
Tell
the
me what that
country.
is. So, because
Yeah,
I'm
so I,
not
I run a
stock
mutual,
smart.
like, so yeah, I've run a private client business. You were one of my clients, your family, and we look after your capital and guide you through the markets. But I also manage a mutual fund, which is, available for purchase by anybody. And that was rare because so I straddle both institutional and retail, whereby, it'd be the same way in your business where you'd be having a pension as a client and or individual buyers and sellers. So I manage a boring 60/40 balance fund here in Canada. And I'm quite proud of it. Out of 300 funds in Canada, that includes all the biggest banks in the world. It is not only first quartile, it is the number one performing fund in the country for the last 6 years. And so, being able, so many times in my world, and I'm sure it's very similar in your world, is that we're often viewed as connectors between like product and people. And
Mm.
sometimes there's friction, and people are like, what do you really do? You're just charging a fee in the middle. You're like, and I get that. Listen, I just went through a process, as you know, like buying and selling some real estate. It's like someone's in the middle and they're the bad guy. I'm the guy in the middle charging a fee just to connect you to product, whether it's an ETF, whether it's a stock, whether it's an investment. The same way a broker is just kind of in the middle. And
Mhm.
we have to all the time, articulate that value. And so much of what we both do is intangible in this business. So I'm happy to kind of go down that rabbit hole. But Leo, that's lots about my accolades. But
There you go. So this journey hasn't been like linear and it hasn't been straight, right? I'm
yeah,
assuming that you've made some pivots. And I remember early days, you were as a junior advisor, you got into this business. And I think if I'm right, there was when you're in the junior advisor roles, you end up working under a mentor. Is that right? And
yep,
you work pretty closely to support their portfolio. But
yep,
then that changed pretty quickly for you. All of a sudden, then I believe you might have been the opportunity to take over the portfolio, and you made these moves, Chad, throughout your
mhm,
career, and some look to be like sideways and then upwards, and it just. But where you've made these leaps, where I think a
yeah,
lot of realtors, for instance, listening to
yeah,
this, end up in this same life, same thing year over year, but there's no leaps, there's no real
yeah,
movement. And I'm just wondering if you could share a little bit about that
sure,
journey and what made you make some of these pivots and almost maybe the courage to do some of that, that of
yeah.
course has created this new world for you, like this
Oh,
incredible life.
the timing of this is serendipitous. Listen, like I was 1 minute late for the podcast because I had an entire bottle of wine with my business partner for lunch. So the gentleman that hired me in the business, my mentor, works for me now.
Oh, crazy.
And retires in 2 months. And he was handing me his signed paperwork, at dinner, and we had an incredible bottle of wine and had a few laughs and a couple tears about the journey that. So first off, I think, I know, this won't maybe resonate to all realtors, but I think, listen, anyone that is in business or even around business can understand a chart. And I think that the path to success, as you said, is that the sideways, the ups, the downs. When we look at the marketplace all day long, and I could share screens, like charts are up and down and up and down, but the further you step away from them, they're generally pretty top right. The closer you get to them, you can be like, oh my God, like what just happened? And I think that like success, like the linear path to success is what everyone doesn't see. It's all the mistakes, it's all the rakes that we step on, it's all the reinventions and the pivots. But a lot of it is just like the unwillingness to fail, and just the endless kind of pursuit to improve, enhance, develop, and change. We're gonna make mistakes. And that's okay. But it's like, what did we learn from that? I guess, the quotes like they're only mistakes if we don't learn from them. But I'm not saying, that we're, the one man band with the kazoo and the hat on and, the drum and the accordion, and we've tried and just failed so many miserable times, but it's been intentional, intentional to try, intentional. And I think, prior to starting the podcast, I think one of the victims we all get to is like this, it's almost like this uncharted, unpathed growth. We see, especially with social media now, we're just seeing so much. Like this person's doing that, I want to do that. This person's doing this, I want to do this. Like even in my own industry, I look at my own firm. Yes, I'm one of the largest advisors in the country, and I've got a resume to choke a hippo, and I've been super successful. There are bigger, badder. There are people that do better things than me. What's become, table stakes for me is incredible investment results and volatility management and bedside manner to attract some of the most discerning capital in the country. That's me. So when people even talk about me in the firm, they're like, we've never seen someone that has been able to attract such serious capital, such large clients. So what is your secret to that? Well, I've got guys in our system that are volume players and they're machines at it. Like we have an advisor in our system that's like a TikTok god, and he probably pours $1 million a year into TikTok, and his ROE on that is insane. But his average account size is nothing. But he's got
Right.
an army, and so like we can build a business different ways. But I think if I step back, I guess if the question being is like, how did I do it? Um, we started to, and I think some of the ethos of why we get along so well, Darren, is it starts with like some principles. It starts with some non-negotiables, like who am I? Do I like that person in the mirror, the man, the woman? So who am I? What am I here to do? And what am I here to accomplish? And so anchored in values and listen, I try not to be like too left hemisphere and soft, but like I want to be respected. I want my children to be able to look up to and be proud of of who I am and what I've done and what I've accomplished. I want to be viewed as a good corporate citizen, but I want to help people. And so, what do I have to do to be able to help people? I'm always looking at the same way you would look in your business is like I'm listening. It's like God gave us two ears and one mouth for a reason. It's like you're sitting there in transactions going, what are the biggest friction points? Whether it's within the investments landscape, the financial planning, or real estate, like what are the things that clients hate?
Mhm.
Okay, well, let's try something new here. Let's push those boundaries. Are we going to implement new processes? Are we going to add people? Are we going to use technology? What are the things that we can improve, develop, and change? Because listen, everyone knows someone that sells real estate. Everyone knows someone that sells investments. Okay. Everyone I know typically is rich, has an advisor. Oh shit. Okay. Well, so I guess there's nothing for me to do here. Well, that's not true. What are the things you would improve, develop, and change? And I think I've made a career on that. And that's how I've approached every day in my life, even spiritually, physically, with my own relationships with my wife, my children, is what are the things I would improve, develop, or change to make that better?
That did you find that for you pretty early on, in those first 5 years, or was it just running and gunning and take what I could get? You've always been everything I've known about you. You've always had this incredible knack with people.
Hmm.
Most realtors get in the business because they're actually really good with people for the most
Yeah.
part,
Yep.
or they just have this love for something property related, right? The ones that don't have either ones of those fail pretty fast.
Yeah.
But in your case, niching towards this, or having this, like, the balls, I guess, to like
Yeah.
carve out a bit of something that allowed you to, I would almost, it didn't take you long to create, for your hockey stick to happen, it felt
No,
like, right?
it was fast.
Yeah. So you obviously found a sweet spot and a lane early on.
Yeah, mine was easy. I got lucky in, my business partner. He had been very successful. He's 16 years older to me. So like he kind of hired me at the age I was today. And he had been very successful, was able to like afford himself where he didn't want to be in the weeds as much. And he and his family was very important to him. And so kind of gave me enough rope to kind of go out there and try.
Sure.
I had that fine line growing up. There's actually a book that I actually send a lot of clients of mine. It's called Entitlemania. And it talks about, like, we all grew up with maybe less than we have today. And, we spoil our children and, all the things that we deal with wealth. But there's this fine line. Something that was ingrained in me is that I grew up like, okay,
Yeah.
but at a period of my time, I grew up overseas. My father had a job opportunity in Buenos Aires, of all places. So I was 13 years old from Calgary, Alberta. I was a hockey player, and now next thing you know, I'm in Buenos Aires in South America, and I went to this like illustrious private school, and
Right.
the kids I went to school with were diplomats, Fortune 500, kids and like military. It was bizarre. So I just saw the other side. Like I saw there was this
Right.
other like level. And so there was it was never an opportunity to fail, but I just knew there was something bigger. And so that fine line between a safety net and a hammock always drove me to say, Same thing in real estate. We're a direct drive business. You get out what you put in.
Hmm.
And so and I'm sure the same thing, and I imagine you would know the stats far better than me. There's a lot of people in both of our businesses, they're lifestyle businesses. There's not a lot of infrastructure you have to pour into them. You can kind of choose your hours. You can choose when you do it, when you don't. And it's for even some people, it ends up becoming part of like a second way to do it, a second hustle, or the kids have grown and I've got some free time. I've got a lot of good relationships. I'm good with people. And so you get pretty natural with it. And as you know, in this business, unlike my own, similarly, you can spit out some cash very quickly, but that's where a lot of people stop. Like they're
Right.
like making a few $100,000 a year. That's pretty great. Like there's nothing wrong with that's great money. I don't have to do a lot. Just keep
Yeah.
that, just feed it a little bit of coal and hey, like I don't work too hard. And I'm like, well, there's no stopping this. Like there's no ceiling to this. This
Right.
seems like waste. I will tell you, and this is something goes back to my investment ethos is there's systemic and non-systemic risk in the market. There's things that we can control and there's things that we can't. Whether it's the market, whether it's your own health, whether it's all these things. Like you can get cancer tomorrow. Like there's so many things you can't control of. But when you have the opportunity to be living or you have the opportunity to be working, use that time. You
Mhm.
have unlimited potential vis-a-vis your efforts, your actions, and what you invest back into yourself. So all it was for me was I remember very young, as like I started making real money real quickly. Then I was like, I'm not even good at what I do yet. I'm just getting going. And if I press this and I hone this, I
Yeah.
sharpen my axe, how much better can I get? So I've always worked with a business coach. I've always, and when I say always, let me be very clear. I was the youngest person in history or of a very large chartered bank to become a chairman's club member. And it's, again, very similar to your industry where we're accoladed for, our economic
For volume. Yeah.
contributions for
Yeah.
volumes. And so it's, it's like the Oscars of your own income. And, the CEO of this bank called me up and he's like, hey, congratulations. You're the youngest person in 113 years to ever, meet this hurdle rate. I was like, I'm the man. Like I'm King Kong. And he's like, for this, I was like, oh, I'm going to get a watch or something. He's like, no, we got you a business coach. I actually took it as an insult.
Right.
I was like, my ego was in the room. He's like, I was like, what do you mean a coach? Like, I'm King Kong. And he's like, you don't think Sidney Crosby sharpens his skates? You don't think he has a strength coach? You don't, he's like, he goes, this is such an opportunity
Sure.
to invest in something great. And so all of those things. And I think when we step back even before this conversation is like, and I know we're going to get around to it, it's like, what are those step change things? And I've watched you in your own career is like, you got to take yourself seriously. And you have to build process around what you do. Because we all chase, the octopus eats its own leg. We all just chase our activities around and think that our activity and our efforts, translate into things. But you got to have a plan, and you have
Mhm.
to action that plan, and you have to be disciplined around it. Like if you don't have a coach, you're just it's like going out on a drive and not knowing where you're going to go.
That's a great story. When that coach got a hold of you and you're this like quintessential up and comer, it's already crushing it. What do you remember them doing with you? With like you're making it, you're driving it, but there's no flywheel yet. You're
Yep.
like, was there like a moment where like they that you can remember what changed? Was it to create scale
Hmm.
maybe? Was it to replicate yourself? Like where you just the, did you remember that
Yeah. Oh
one or
yeah.
two,
Yeah.
or maybe
Like
what you didn't do anymore?
oh
I don't
yeah. No, this is like I was like, man, I probably never shared this story. So good on you. Two things. Number one, and it's something that stuck with me today, and I'm sure it's trauma based. So number one, this person like stripped me down, tore me apart, and made me realize that it wasn't pawn. It was like it wasn't pawn scum, but it was like I knew nothing.
right.
Like he was just he was like you, I was good enough to be lucky and lucky enough to be good.
Hmm.
And it made me realize how fragile that was. Like I got
Hmm.
caught with a lot of gusto, energy, momentum, charisma into a bull market.
Right.
And he was just like, easy, young Jedi, slow down, like
It's like building
caution.
on sand.
100. Yeah, it was cool, and it was wet. Um, the other one was just, aside from that, was realizing that, and you got to backfill all those things. And I'll tell this cool story. It was, building success in quicksand is normal. Especially as like as is similar to real estate. Like we're hunter gatherers.
Yeah.
You're creating leads. You're getting prospects. You're getting listings. You're getting your name and your brand out. But then you got to deliver. And that's where we fall short so many times is we have the opportunity reputationally to attract business. We have to invest back into our people and our processes and our team and our platforms to make sure that we can deliver on those things. Because you only get, I always tell my clients, like, I'm sure I've told you this, I was like, you'll never like me more than the first day we meet.
Right.
Because then we got to deal in the weeds, right? Like you've got to tell your clients their house is too expensive. You got to tell them that they got to spend more to get what they want, and I got to tell people they got to work a little bit longer, or spend a little bit less, or the market did this. Like it, you have to. So working that coach, those two things was one. It really stripped me back and really understood who I was, and
Hmm.
like my why. Why did I do this? Was I doing this to impress people or to impress upon them like discipline and values and a good ethos of discipline, or was I just impressing them that I was like smooth, slick, find cool deals and make them lots of money? Because all of those things aren't repeatable at scale. But what I
Right.
can do at scale is give a shit, care, show up, be accountable, and going through all of those things, those are those non-negotiables. And same thing in your world.
You wouldn't
There's
have
so
had that leap from average portfolio to the higher net worth if you didn't figure out that. I call that the harvest when
yeah,
like you're actually in that zone where you're delivering on the service that you've like maybe worked for a year to even get to the point. Like I say in real estate, you're realtoring now, but
yep,
then you can easily fail on the experience or the post close pretty easily, and that's why realtors end up restarting their businesses all over because they don't
for
they don't
sure.
nail that and go forward. So you've obviously figured that out, and that's allowed you to drive this. So do you find now your business is heavy referral based, or now is it accolade based? Is because
Yeah,
you've got the pedestal that people see
yeah,
you on, which
yep,
realtors get there too, and then they
yep,
have this insane Rolodex that you said
yep,
maybe isn't massive volume, but I'm sure it's still hella volume.
yep,
That combo, right? And
yep.
it sounds very crossovery to our
I
business.
always tease and like, so this is like I don't know if like this will like maybe go over like a lead balloon. I've also like never met an advisor who's not like the top advisor, and I've never met a realtor that's like not the top realtor. Like we kind of create like a bit of an archetype, an ecosystem of awards, internally and subjectively. Now, listen, my industry, CIRO, the Canadian Investment Regulatory Organization, has done, they've kind of combated back because, we used to give ourselves all these crazy titles. Everyone was like Lord Commander and Chief of Investments. And now they've kind of just homogenized us back a little bit. But yeah, so reputationally and call it like, I don't have to bark anymore.
Right.
That brand has been built. But now that it's built, it's equally important to protect that.
Mm.
And you like how the mighty fall, the hubris of success, that will come with all of those things is so building it is easier than maintaining it. And those are two part and parcel. So when you talk about whether it's referral based or the hunter gatherer, my business is going through, and I think it's probably similar, and I'd love you to talk a little bit about or maybe is the intersection and adjunction between technology is reshaping our business. Don't get me wrong, this isn't Y2K and the advent of E-Trade. Everyone thought brokers were going to go away. In fact, brokerage business went up. Like I will tell you right now, about 11%. I always used to say, like, listen, I have access to realtor.ca. What do I need a realtor for? I'm
Right.
shopping online. I'm going to narrow it down to three things I want. I'm going to choose what I want to buy and pay, and then somehow there's this friction cost in the middle, and I don't understand it. That's a complete lie. Understanding the value of advice, and not all people are going to get it. And guess
Right.
what? That's just not your customer. And that's why there'll be 1% Realty over in the corner doing their thing, and that'll solve, that's my version of E-Trade or direct online brokerage. But my ethos is you pay peanuts, you get monkeys. It's
Right.
just how it goes. So I guess the question, like doing my, ADD loop in my brain is it referral based or is it reputational based, combo thereof? There's three channels to create enterprise value because I also run like a fund externally of the firm. Is I can't be all things to everybody. As you know, I deal with a small subsect of successful entrepreneurs, families, endowments, and institutions that, amongst other things, that we're irreplaceable to. We're all things to them. Soup to nuts, cradle to grave, however you want to describe it, we handle all things for private families. There's only so much scale in that. I can't have 1,000 clients. It's just not going to work. I can't get to know you and your family and the intricacies because there's no model that makes sense. There's no algorithm that says this is what Darren should have. There's no algorithm that says that it's different from Bob. It's
Right.
just not there. Same thing in real estate. Like the non-negotiables and things, like it takes time. You can't just fill in an intake form and decide what house they're going to buy. If
Mm.
that was the case, Google would have figured it out. We'd all be out of business right now. So whether it's your business or my business, there's a human element to it. But I have my private client business with it just high touch, high margin, high mode of defensibility, and that is built now on scaled reputation that I covet. So when people do find me online, I still get a natural flow online. I don't have to pitch. They're basically
Right.
calling me and saying, I want to be a client.
That's the realtor version of a come list me, right? Or,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah,
yeah, use it.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, hey, here's your business. But now, yeah, and as I'm sure you know this, running a successful business, you have to also guard your own energy and exposure too, and saying, hey, like, yeah, I love your business. I want it. I don't need it. Let's make sure there's an alignment of how we work
100%.
together, what your expectations of service results, like what you all think. So you have to like align those up. And so we're a little bit more choosy on what we would do. But there's also a scalable version. And again, probably very similar to real estate, like whether we're fundraising for a multifamily project or development project, there is scale within technology. We're saying, there's no scale within my strategy. I could run $50 billion.
Right.
I run $2 billion today. So maybe 50 is super aspirational, but I could double the amount of
Knowing
assets.
you, it's going to happen here pretty.
I wish. But no, for sure. Like the path to five is like the first billion took me 20 years. The next billion took me 18 months. And it
Amazing.
was just a snowball of success. And again, it's that iceberg that no one sees. So that bedrock. So I think we have to look at those feeder systems and saying like, we have to be there on social media. We have, don't get me wrong. Like I'm not getting my whale clients coming in because they're like, wow, I saw your TikTok,
Sure.
but brand recognition, scalability, thought leadership, being in your presence, like it super matters.
I kind of say there's like two ways that we can tell people what we do. It's either like passively, you create posts, YouTube, do blogs and hope it comes your way. And then,
Yeah.
or you actively get out there and hustle. And I'm assuming that has transitioned for you. The ratio of that early in those first 15 years before almost transition to that one bill. And then now I would assume so much of it is built around passive, meaning I
Yes.
make things happen and it comes my way. But you had
Yeah.
the patience and the blinders on, I would assume, for
Yeah.
long enough to eventually get to this point where the ratio flipped. Does that ring a
Yeah.
bell? Does that sound
Uh,
right?
a 100%. It was like it was never an if, it was a when. But I don't remember though. I don't remember that moment when it went from a pursuer to, to attracting to pursuing. I don't remember when, and that's something I like. I probably need to take a step back and, walk the mountain and watch the burning bush and go, what happened? And when was that moment when I
Right.
went from pursuer to attractor? When now it's like it's out. I always call it the sexiest sale now. Now is like I'm the non-sale sale. I get approached all the time. And it's not Heisman. It's not like put the hand up and block. It's just like they're like, hey man, like why didn't you I know you do that thing. Why haven't you asked me? And I'm like, listen, when it's right for you, you're gonna come to me and talk to me. I don't
Hmm.
need to be in your face all the time because I know everyone else is. And like that kind of chillness to it for the ultra high net worth market, that it's almost that scarcity. And it's like that bit of that luxury good. It's like you're not seeing an ad for a Laurel Piana shoe. It's not all over.
Sure.
It's like, but when people know that's where like really nice shoes come from, they just they got to go figure it out for themselves. So that was really on building, a moat and a not a mystery, but a really coveted brand around results. And listen, I traffic, as you do as well, but we traffic in anonymity and privacy. We know a lot of things about our private families, the inner workings, the dirty details, and we're Canadian. Like we don't talk about money very much around the coffee table. So when you become that we have to like caution that. Like, so as I've my digital strategy's taken off a little bit, which is more of like call it like it's an aggregator of assets.
Yep.
Some of my private clients have come to me and been like, hey, don't really like seeing are you for everybody? Like, I thought you were my guy. And I'm like, hey, like it doesn't matter if I'm trading a portfolio. Like it's not that they're like nameless people, but it's a model and an investment thesis that it's aligned to a part of their portfolio. I don't meet them, I don't see them, I don't know who their kids are and all of those things. You don't, but yeah, you have to govern that. You're like, am I one for the masses or am I this elite kind of like secret skull and crossbones, secret handshake thing?
I mean, realtors don't build their businesses by design very often. And that's a
Yeah.
part of like why I'm here and why I don't just dedicate all my time inside my team. It's just like I really feel like my message matters. And this like build your business by design with intention, put some constraints around some things, say no to some things, but yet you're like you said, it's like we there's no pension for us,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Same thing
And
with you. You eat what you kill, and it's super competitive. And so would you say that ability to constrain, to focus, to create clarity earlier helped you just hockey stick so well? Or did you find
oh,
that a decade in? You know what I mean?
for sure a decade in. Like it's just like, it's you're aging me. The
We're about
overnight
the same
success.
age. I'm turning
Yeah,
44. So
I know. The overnight success story. And I know that's not the accusation by any means. You've known
yeah.
me like my entire career. But like the hockey stick has been real, like the exponential, success. It's like it seems like it's over, it's like again, like I've doubled my business in 18 months. You're like, oh, it's overnight. I'm like, the cadence to get there. So it was 10, 10, we were still, and we're still learning today. Like we're still, and I love the way you said this. It's like, building this by design, and it's probably over on my bookshelf, but it was like, and we talk about this in planning with clients. And I'm sure when you're sitting down with a client looking to purchase a new home, it's like, what are we doing here? Is like all real estate is or all investments are, they're things like it's yours is a collection of sticks, nails, shingles, and toilets. And mine are like weird things that show like they're not even real. They're lines on a spreadsheet. Yeah, they might say Amazon shares and Google shares, but they're really it doesn't seem super tangible. But like, what are we here to like? Are we buying this for the outcome? And like working with a realtor for me is like, what is the outcome? It's not what's your budget, what you can afford, what's your mortgage, and what area you don't want to live. Okay, that's a transaction. Like that's volume. It's like, what are you here to accomplish? You're like,
Mm.
hey, I want to live in this area because they've got quiet cul-de-sac streets, park systems, close to great schools, close to the hockey club where, my kids are ingrained in, and yada, and our friends and our family are close. So that becomes a transaction of outcomes. And so when you ask, like, what did I do in my business? That to set me up for success was I really paired our investment strategy around outcomes, not
Mm.
about things. Yes, don't get me wrong. put the propeller hat on and press anyone and start using words like EBITDA and DCF analysis and fancy terms to impress you. That's all garbage. Like we're outcomes focused. And so I think that that was a realization well over a decade ago. It was like what I do for a living, albeit is very technical and expertise based
Sure.
and skill based, is really on driving outcomes for clients.
I
And so
mean,
when you
you
can
said something
connect those
offline.
two, people love you.
Yeah, you said something people process philosophy is
Yep.
like something to kind of live through so to me that sounds a bit of a yeah, like a mission set, but it's more like a filter, isn't it? It's like a filter that
Yes.
decides like how you're going to operate, the decisions you choose, and then ultimately how people feel like the experience from you. And
Oh,
that
if
is
no
not
one's
what I
ever said
expected to hear
filter,
from.
Darren,
I
that is
expected to hear the other stuff, like the
yeah.
sophisticated language where I'm like, bro, I don't know what you're talking about,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Listen, if I can't explain it to you with a crayon, that means I don't understand it well enough myself. I'm
I love
not
it.
there. I don't, as you know, I don't show up with 50 pages of decks and charts and analysis to prove I'm smart to you because we drive outcomes. My goal for you, you're and your partner and you get in the elevator and you go home is that you're just holding hands and you go, you're okay. Like if I've just had to tell you how smart I am and piss you off, that's just like it's just creating a gap between my skill set, your understanding, and what I'm here to do. But the way you said like a filter is the absolute like people process philosophy because the other side of it is my industry is built on products, price, and performance. How much
Mm.
money did I make you? What did I buy you? And what does it cost? I'm like, well, if you don't if you've aligned to my people, the process and the philosophy of why we do it, who we are, and what you're invested in, and you're comfortable with that, the rest of it makes sense. Because again, going back to dovetailing it into call it chapter one is the further you step out from the chart, the smoother it gets, and it all starts to work top right.
Yeah.
But when you get into the weeds and you're just looking at all the sticks on the ground and the chips, and it's a big old mess, and the wind's kicked up, and water's coming over the heel of the boat, and you're like, I don't know what's going on. You're like, the boat can handle it. We're going there. We got gas. Like we got life jackets. Like we know where we're going. So again, it's people, process, and philosophy. Like, do you understand all those things? And I think when you can relate, I would say that I never thought I'd be able to make that connection into real estate, but it's like, what are we trying to accomplish here? I want to sell my house. Well, why? I want to downsize. Okay, why are you downsizing? Kids are moving away. How much space do you need? What's important to you? Close to restaurants, close to nature. Like those discovery questions, like now you care, now you understand. It's
Yeah.
not just like, hey, here's a bunch of product. Let me connect you to it and determine how I can create friction in the in between. So connecting. So again, it was 10 years about remembering that aside from all the numbers and the whizzy cool shit that I do, it's really connecting to people what matters the most.
So I'm going to segue out of that into this crazy world that we live in today. There's like you and I were talking offline, the company I'm with, Real Broker, is the startup. We just put out there in the world we're buying
Massive.
Remax, the quintessential legacy brand that we all grew up with in the 80s. I mean,
Yeah,
we all, but you and I at least. There's
sure.
a lot of younger listeners on this show.
Oh, I get all.
And then like again, when I have a chance to talk with you, you're into these alternative investments. The
Mm,
world has changed. AI is rolling. You've got your own AI kind of fund, and like a thing as well. I'd love to just, if you want, to riff for a minute
mm.
on like the changing of the guard that you see it, and I'd love to hear your take on what's going on in this big macro world that for those
Love to.
listening may not have wealth advisors like you, are just trying to figure this out a little bit, but you're on the inside of the inside on a lot of this stuff and you have a pretty cool lens to it, so I'd love to allow
Yeah. So this is actually pretty cool. Is that what's happening in the world right now? Is that I like one of my favorite lines, which so I was in Vancouver speaking at this conference yesterday, and I love the man that said it. He was one of my former colleagues. He's a great guy. And I used to say every broker in my world, every investment advisor, not real estate broker, used to say this comment when people would ask me for my opinion on the marketplace. You'd be like, hey, how do you feel about things? And this makes me want to puke all over myself. We are cautiously optimistic.
it.
Like, Yeah, listen, I'm paying you for an opinion. Don't give me like milk toast. This is like enough. Like, I want toppings on my pizza. This is garbage. Like, you can be wrong, but I need an opinion. But one of my favorite things, and this bodes true, whether like so this is it. Two things can be true at the same time. And you know that other phrase of like the truth is somewhere in the middle.
Right.
Last summer, I was in Greece and I met this like guy in a boat, had a chat with him, and I made assumptions about him. He was from Texas, and I was like, oh, you're like a cowboy. And, it turns out he was like this far left, liberal guy. And I was like, you just didn't think they like lived in Texas. And I was like, oh, the truth's somewhere in the middle. Like, I was just trying to like say, hey, like, sorry, but like, it's all good.
Right.
And he actually said something to me that really stuck with me. He goes, the truth isn't in the middle, it's somewhere in the middle. And that didn't take too much away from him and it didn't take too much away from me and it allowed it to be interpretive and it allowed us to find some middle ground. But I guess why I tell that story is what's happening in the market right now is so cool. There's so much innovation. There's technology, there's AI, there's, like everything has robots and satellites and SpaceX. Like, what a time to be alive. And you got this crazy orange man like tweeting shit and it's like what is happening? Like, where are we? I would tell you that's the biggest concern in the marketplace right now. Most
Okay.
of clients are super nervous. The markets have been on tilt for the last couple of years. It's this K-shaped economy. People that own real assets and own investments have made a ton of money. People on Main Street that don't own houses, that don't own real assets and don't own investments, inflation's been terrible. Like cost of
Mm.
living's gone up. Like, so that's that K-shaped economy. The haves have way more. The
Yeah.
have-nots have less.
Right.
But in that, there's this really cool phenomenon is, yeah, go back 7 or 10 years ago, 7 years ago, we used that. A lot of the world didn't make sense for me. It was, I had to buy things like Snapchat and Salesforce and these like software as a service things. And it was about clicks and eyeballs. And I didn't really kind of understand it. It was really hard to put capital into these stories they weren't tangible. There was really no assets to them. Now, the advent of AI has actually become a bricks and mortar, picks and shovels play.
Interesting.
Everything that I don't understand, I don't know which nerd from MIT creates the best model. Like I just moved from ChatGPT to Claude. I was like, Claude is the Rolls-Royce, ChatGPT is the Honda Civic. I cannot believe I was on Chat. Like things are changing so fast, but I would argue like OpenAI AI is still worth $100 billion. And it might be obsolete in 2 years. Like,
Right.
we don't need to make a bet on those things, but what we can make a bet on is like the tangible parts of the real economy that
Mm.
will drive that growth. So when I say I run an AI portfolio, I run an AI portfolio and I call it the durable economy behind AI. Here's a cool stat for you. In the US, how many cities do you think have more than 1 million people in them? I don't want to make you look dumb, but it's a number.
40.
11.
Oh.
Now, don't get me wrong, that's like proper, not including like the Santa Barbaras, like
Sure,
so
sure,
it's a
sure.
bit of it's a tee up question, but technically there's 11 cities in the US that have 1 million people. Last year, not including this year, because this year is even bigger, but last year $340 billion was spent by the major hyperscalers, the Metas and Googles, investing in data centers and infrastructure. Just 2024, that $340 billion putting into data centers will require enough power to be the equivalent of the US building another 25 cities with 1 million people in
Whoa.
4 years. In 4 years, as you know, is like that.
Huh.
This year was $600 billion. So we're seeing this phenomenon. We're going like, I don't understand AI. Let's go back to real estate. Like, why are we investing in multifamily? Look at the immigration rates. Like, people have to live somewhere. Like, you don't need a degree in rocket science to
Right.
look at follow thematic trends. And that's how we've been successful is saying we don't have to get down to the granular. We can stay at 50,000 feet and say, what is happening? Okay. More people are coming into the developed world. More people are using electricity. What does that require? Copper. Okay. More
Right.
people are, so it's just all of these simple things. And so when you see that riff of like this modern economy has become quite simple because the real bottleneck to growth is actually the most basic and physical things you've ever seen.
So is what I'm hearing is like some of the best things that an AI portfolio in your case would be is some of the rawest, simplest materials that have always been there, but now because AI and modernization needs it, it's even more important than before.
It's critical. And listen, the world's changed. It's not a global world anymore. It's populism, it's nationalism. Like it or not, we don't live in a global economy anymore. We can't rely on all these countries for their rare earth metals anymore, or their silica bases, or their potassium. You look at the closure of the Strait of Hormuz. We saw how close we got during COVID when shipping lanes
Yeah.
were closed. It's like people are hoarding toilet paper. Like the basic things that we need can be
Yeah.
like water, electricity, and like power. Like wow, who would have thought in this world where we turn on our $2,000 cell phones that we live on and it didn't work? Like, what would happen to that? Like, how critical we are to so technology, but the technology's been built. That's all there. Yes, they can make the camera better every year and they can make the chip a little bit faster, but what are the inputs into that? And so, some of the best parts that we're seeing right now in this next phase of economic growth is it's like, it's not back to basics, but we don't have to go find the gold mine, but I'm happy to own the company that's providing the picks and the shovels and, the leather gloves to go dig it all out of the ground. Let go someone else blow their brains out and figure out where the gold seam is. But they're going
I
to buy
love
my
that.
picks and shovels.
That's right. Fair
Yeah.
enough. That makes a ton of sense for me.
Yeah.
Man, Chad, so like again, I could ask you, I think I told you I got 4 episodes worth that I could ask
No,
you.
it's
And
good.
again, there's so
No, this
much
is
that
great.
I'd love to take on. Um, where do people like if they just like the way you go about this stuff? Like I mean, I know you've got a certain level of portfolio that you take on, and maybe many of my listeners wouldn't be into that level of net worth and stuff, but to learn more to understand this business a bit more. If they love the parallels you were able to share between our
Yep.
businesses and appreciated that, where do people stay
Yeah,
a part of your journey? Right?
sure. So I do a podcast as well. So I do a monthly podcast. I've been doing it for a few years, and that was, there's not a lot I can say, and I can't get super technical by compliance reasons. I can't give like top picks and things that, that I'm doing, but it's more of a bit of a more of a riff. Like I kind of do it on the fly of things that are across my desk, things that make sense, things that, I'm seeing and trying to just distill, like you said, that filter
Yeah.
of like what is actually happening versus what we think is happening. So it gives a great way to kind of just get comfortable with my ethos and thought processes. The MLD Core Fund that I manage,
Right.
it's a prospectus cleared mutual fund. You can buy it online direct. It's cheap as chips. And it largely is the largest expression to my views in the marketplace. Like it's a boring 60/40 balance fund. It just happens to perform like a top hedge fund in the country because I do the simple things well.
Right.
I can walk back and, not to accolade it, it was, we saw a couple years ago, we saw the government printing money and so what did we want to do? Well, if we know interest rates are going up, we know bonds are going to go down. So get out of the way. It was that having a high IQ is not intelligence. It's having a high implementation quotient. Same thing for all your realtors. It's like, the things you need to do. You got to press the flash, touch base with your clients, follow up, be congruent, be consistent, be disciplined. But within the investment processes, we know all the things we need to do. So I actually just take the time, care, and attention to implement because I've never been fed business. I've never
Right.
just rested on the brand of a big laurel that just feeds me, capital. So yeah, MLD Core, you can Google MLD Core Fund. Purpose is my carrying, fund provider that I manage the capital for. So you can kind of get 80% of the way there. Where I play around the edges and originations with, listen, I play a lot in real estate. I'll leave the name of the building outside, but I took half a building here downtown the other day. We took that down, and that was an incredible transaction for us. Yeah, we do some pretty cool, sophisticated, underwritings in the alternative space. But yeah, it's not meant to be elitist. But the speed, direction, and scale to participate in those transactions, requires, accredited investor, basis is, and so, typically it's, at a kind of a minimum of $1 million of liquid, money to kind of get to work. But 80% of what I do is down the fairway and easily Googleable and portable, through the MLD Core Fund.
Well, that's amazing. And then you play, is this findable? Can they find the book?
Yeah, yeah. Oh my God, please don't buy it. Listen, you can just go on my, no, no, listen, you can go on my website, www.mywealthmanagement.ca. And if you just like throw in your email address, you get a free ebook of it. I would actually probably actually a good friend of mine, like to support me, like went out and bought 100 books. I was like, oh my God, what are you doing? Um, and it wasn't a vanity project. Like it was like more of a give back to my client base, to say like the world of alternative investing is, it's big. It's not scary. Anything that you don't know about can be scary. We don't know what we don't know. And so it was really meant to be, I don't want to call it a toilet read, but it's a pretty easy read about, I had no idea that these parts of the market were even investable and what they're there to do. Again, these are things, but they're outcome based, whether it's inflation protection, growth, income,
Yeah.
volatility management. But we try to put a face to the animals in the zoo, so to speak. But yeah, just go on my website, get a free copy of it. Like it wasn't a money making project, but it's been very successful.
I love I mean, when I first wanted to have you on, I knew it was the wealth of knowledge. And then I started to unpack how similar our businesses can build. And I
Oh,
knew
so
this
similar.
message would land with agents. So I really appreciate, I know you're incredibly busy, that you had the time for us. And that I hope the listeners really got a sense for like, you can build something very special. And when you put your head down and you do something by design, like Chad has done, you could become I mean, in this uncapped field like real estate, like what he does. Um, we transact when things are going up. We transact when things are going down, very much like your business. And we make money along the way. So hopefully you take a ton of lessons. And thank you so much for coming on the Rome podcast. I don't know if I ever told
My
you what that
pleasure.
means, but that means Realtors on a Mission. That's my little
I
acronym.
like it. I
So
like
there you
it.
go.
Hey, have a mission, have a plan. Listen. I was a pleasure, to be on, and equally impressed at what you guys have been able to build, and I'm so excited about this kind of next leg of growth, through this transaction and what that means for you guys. And we didn't give that enough airtime. That is, that'll be a step change moment of what was just announced, and I'm super excited to see where you guys go from here. So
I think you're the first
you're
person I
listening.
sent the message to.
Yeah, 100%. No, it's like I was like mic drop, like that's big. And like, that is going to, it puts, just to spend 2 seconds on that. That is it's not the apple upsetting the apple card. Like it's not a bad thing. It's just showing that the model has changed. And it's like, I don't know, it's like fit in, and it's not that the old way is wrong, but there's always a way. Again, remember back to the improve, develop, and change. But as long as you're anchored in, and I know you are, it's like you're here to help people, you're here to drive client solutions and provide value for their families. Like have your mission, your ethos. So the realtors on a mission is like keep your mission, but never be stuck in your path, and always be willing to try and always be able to push those boundaries, because it's going to be those people that improve, develop, to change the experience and the results for their clients that win. And just don't give up.
Amazing. All right, buddy. Well, I'll let you be. Appreciate
Pleasure.
you. For everybody listening, thanks again, and we'll catch you next time.